Victor, before we get to Mark Kelly, I did want to mention this news. There's too many names here, but these Michigan had a Democrat convention
Yes,
yesterday,
I saw that.
Sunday, and an Amir Makled, who is a lawyer, a guy from Dearborn, and a Hezbollah praiser. He defeated for the Democrats have the right to appoint a regent to the University of Michigan board, and the incumbent was Jordan Acker, who's I'm assuming Jewish because his house and his car were vandalized with anti-Semitic graffiti. But the Democrats of Michigan nominated this radical guy to sit on the board of the University of Michigan. So this party that was the party of Dan Rostenkowski and Tip O'Neill and even Bill Clinton. This is dead and over. Uh,
Yeah, I think they're captive of a very small but apparently very influential group of people who are Islamic and they vote a straight ticket apparently. Because I say that because is it Saeed, the candidate in the same state for the Senate,
right.
he had a hot mic on where he said that he had to be careful about expressing any opinion about the death of Khamenei, this cruel, horrible dictator in Iran who had butchered 40,000 of his own people, because it might not go well with his constituency, meaning they were pro-Hezbollah.
Yeah.
And we had that person that tried to ram the synagogue, and his family were active Hezbollah terrorists. So, uh, I don't know what's happened to the Democratic Party, but one of the worst things that historically that happens to a party or a group or a nation when they spiral down into suicidal hatred, tribalism, is anti-Semitism is one of the first. It's kind of like, a sore
Yeah.
throat when you know you're getting very ill. And when you see it everywhere, and I see it everywhere, and it has so many manifestations. In Tucker's case, it's just the sheer volume. If he were to do one show every 5 or every 10 on Bibi or one in every 8 on Israel, then you could argue that he's just critical of Israel and the support that it garners, but it's about 70% of his shows, and they're
Mhm.
all negative, and he had never done that before. And then when you see these random attacks on Jews and you have nothing happening, you get the impression that either the majority of the Democratic Party agree or they're afraid to express opposition or objection because they're going to be themselves targeted. So they wanted to cut off aid. Most of the Democrats, with a few exceptions, wanted to cut off aid to Israel right when it's in this existential war with Iran. I think that Europe is pro-Hezbollah. It's pretty clear they are. France was until they lost a French soldier. Now all of a sudden they're worried. But um, if this doesn't stop, this momentum, and I never thought I would say that about the United States, you're going to see Jews that are targeted, just everyday Jews. And it's going to be like, at the elite level, it'll be like Gentleman's Agreement, the Gregory Peck movie about
Mhm.
that you politely don't hire Jews or you don't recruit them.
Yeah, we don't
And
have your
given
reservation at the
yes,
restaurant
and
at the hotel. Yeah.
given Jewish meritocracy that dominated the Ivy League 30 or 40% in some years after the Semitic restrictions were removed and we went to the SAT meritocratic equality of opportunity admissions, it's down to about, I think the Jewish uh, numbers are way, way down by almost, they've decreased by 2/3. And so I just don't, I don't see a new young generation of Jews emerging from this country without having to be targeted by mostly people who are Islamic, and the people who aid and abet them. And it's going to be, I predict, unless somebody comes out and stops it, it's going to get worse and worse and worse. And all we can do as people is each person, according to your station, is to demand that you treat people as an individual, not a collective. And
Yeah.
You don't pander, you don't criticize, but when you hear people attacking Jews, you speak up against it. If you don't, then you're part of the problem.
There's a great piece on that, if I just may make a note, Victor, to our viewers and listeners who are very intelligent people. There's a great online magazine called Tablet Magazine,
It
and
is. It's excellent. I saw that article.
about
Are you
the
referring to the woman who was a PhD,
I
and
am, yeah,
she's a veteran, and
yes, Megan Mobbs, and she wrote
what to die for?
The Things Worth Dying For. Yeah,
That was a wonderful article. It was so rare to see somebody that was so brave and so persuasive.
right. So, and she's also a Catholic, and it was an interesting thing about this journal. They're I'm gonna say eclectic. It's that they allow these other kind of voices to write for them. But
Yeah, I think that's one. I remember I think I told you once I was at my graduation and there was a person at this. I had won this award, and the awardees were at the table with the provost, and this woman was attacking the United States in World War II.
hmm
And she kept going, 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 and saying we were war criminals. And my father and my mom watched him drink one glass, two glasses, three glasses. And then I said to my mom, "Hey, Mom, I think the fuse is lit." And then he got up and said, I didn't fly 40 missions over
hmm
Tokyo, and my first cousin didn't get killed in Okinawa for me to sit and hear this. Now you're going to hear something." And then he let loose.
Yeah,
So I feel that way about all the people who fought. That's what her point was in the article. They didn't fight and die and risk everything so the University of Michigan could select somebody whose principal qualification was that he hated Jews, and he was pro-ISIS and Hezbollah and the whole bunch, and was not shy about it. And so, why I always think that, given our ethos, that a person who comes from a different country, if he qualifies for citizenship, he or she, and he's a citizen, then they have as much right as somebody, that I've been here, on my mother's side from the I don't know, 20s. My father's from 1870, 80. But my point is, they are just as much American. But that being said, if you do come over here and then when you arrive and you go full Ilhan Omar and you call it a trashy country and a
right.
dictatorship, then that allows people who have been living here to say to them, "We didn't die on Iwo Jima. We didn't die at Belleau Wood. We didn't die at Gettysburg for you to come over here and tell us that we're no good. And we're not going to take it. I'm sorry." And we need that attitude a lot more. So the immigrant has really changed. When we had Max Nikias, he was the ideal immigrant. He's the ideal immigrant. He loves the country. He contributed so much to it. And yet he's that profile that he and millions had once represented is under attack now. I think it's because of the indoctrination in the university
Yeah,
and the DEI component, that if you're a DEI qualifier, you feel that you're exempt from criticism and you have a right or a duty to trash your host country as white, racist, heterosexual, a whole bit. And I think it will continue until people say, "You know what, you're absurd. We're not going to listen to you anymore." If everybody would say that, no matter what your particular background is, I think it would stop very quickly.
yeah. Someone was mentioning at the Philadelphia Society meeting, which I was at in Tampa this past weekend, about Peter Schramm, who I think you must have known Peter.
I knew him a lot. I spoke at his in Ohio. Is it Ohio he was at?
He was
Is
at the Ashbrook Center. Yeah, he
yeah.
ran that. And Peter was born in Hungary, and his family escaped during the '56 revolution. But he asked his father why here, and essentially the father said, "We were always Americans. We just weren't born there." And I do think there are a lot of people that think like that and feel
Yeah, I
like
do
that and are
too.
patriot. But there are many, many more, like Ilhan Omar and others, who are still Somalians and still Pakistanis and Afghanis and whatever the heck, and do not like
Well,
this place, yet they're a big
I don't
welfare
know, but
recipient. you know.
I'm really upset though, because I was looking at some of the Steve Hilton now claims, by the way, that the fraud in California has gone up to 400 billion.
I think,
Billion.
yeah.
That I mean, that would almost cut 25% of the deficit.
Right.
And when you look at that and you look at the names that are coming in, a lot of them are naturalized citizens or they're here a green card holder. I don't know. But the reason I mention that is the immigrant has a special onus on him that his host was generous and allowed him to come in, just like a guest into somebody's home. And that you have to behave extraordinarily well. So when these people say, well, he only had a DEI, uh, why deport? You shouldn't have any crime. You should be exemplary because this country bent over backwards to allow you to be a guest. And then when you come in here, as the Somali community did in many cases, and you defrauded the country, then you should be deported. Get a fair trial, adjudicate the evidence, and get out because you've abused the hospitality and you rewarded our magnanimity with contempt. And so I'm getting really sick of all of this.
Mhm.
And oh, immigrants, immigration has been the backbone of the country. But there was a demonstration that said immigrants built the country. Well, they did in the sense that we only had a small population and we were immigrating here from 1820, 1810, even before. But that's not what the sign meant. It meant that only people who were illegal had built the country. And that's not true.
Yeah.
It's not true.